two men who would shape China for the next 25 centuries met exactly once, one room, one afternoon, around 518 BCE. One of them was already the most respected teacher in the country, precise, disciplined, certain that a collapsing world could be repaired if people would only return to doing things correctly. He came to ask the other man a careful, technical question about sacred ceremony. He left comparing him to a dragon. His name was Confucius. He was somewhere in his 30s, building the philosophy that would govern Chinese life into the 20th century. The man across from him was older, stranger, and entirely uninterested in being understood. He kept the royal archives. He had watched dynasties rot from the inside. And when Confucius asked him about the rituals, the beating heart of everything Confucius believed, the old man told him, more or less, to put it down. Drop the arrogance. Drop the appetite. Drop the performance of virtue. None of it, he said, is doing what you think it is doing. Confucius went home and, by every account that survives, said nothing for the rest of the day. The next morning he told his students he had met a dragon, a creature he could not follow, could not grasp, and could not get out of his head. We do not know the old man's name for certain. History would come to call him Lao Tzu. And the argument that started in that room never ended, not in China, and not, if you are honest about it, inside you. I'm Andrew, and this is Daily Tao Wisdom, where we go back to the source. Not the quotes on Instagram, not the self-help repackaging, the actual stories, the actual figures, the actual wisdom, and what it means for your life right now. By the end of this video, you'll understand why the oldest argument in Chinese history, whether a good life is something you build or something you stop blocking, is the exact argument running underneath your own week. And you'll never look at the gap between discipline and surrender the same way again. Let's go back. A world coming apart. To understand why two men in one room mattered so much, you have to understand that they were standing inside the wreckage of a civilization. The year is roughly 518 BCE. China is not the unified empire most people picture. It is a patchwork of rival states, nominally loyal to a Zhou king who no longer has the power to make anyone obey him. The old order, the one that had held for centuries, with its inherited ranks and its sacred ceremonies, and its sense that everyone had a place, is visibly dying. Dukes assassinate their way to power. Ministers murder the lords they serve. Armies burn each other's harvests. Sons fight fathers for thrones that are barely worth the blood. This period has a name that tells you everything. Historians call the chaos that followed the warring states. It was the closest thing the ancient world had to a permanent civil war. Generations of it, with no end in sight. And here is the thing that makes this era one of the most extraordinary in human history. Out of that collapse came not despair, but an explosion of thought. When a society stops working, people stop taking its assumptions for granted. They start asking the largest possible question, out loud with their whole lives. What actually makes a life and a society go right? Dozens of schools of thinkers rose to answer it. The Chinese later called this the Age of the 100 Schools of Thought. It was the ancient equivalent of every brilliant, exhausted person you know quitting their job at once to figure out how to live. Except the stakes were not a podcast. The stakes were whether the next harvest got burned. Two of those answers would outlast all the others. They are still fighting today. And they came from two men who could not have been less alike. The man who could not get hired. Here is what almost nobody tells you about Confucius. By the standard he cared about most, he was a failure. We picture him as a serene golden statue, a fortune cookie sage. The real man was a frustrated, ambitious, often heartbroken job seeker. Confucius, Conq, born around 551 BCE in the small state of Lu, believed with his entire being that he could fix the chaos if a ruler would simply put him in charge and let him rebuild the government from the inside. So he spent his life trying to get that job. He didn't get it. Not really. He held minor posts, lost them, and then spent more than a decade wandering from state to state with a handful of devoted students, offering his services to one duke after another. He was turned away. He was mocked. At one point, he and his followers were stranded between states, out of food, and one of his closest disciples turned to him and essentially asked, "If your way is so right, why are we starving in a ditch?" He died at around 72, by most accounts believing he had not accomplished the thing he was put on earth to do. Sit with that, because it reframes him completely. The most influential teacher in human history thought he had failed. The man who wanted to disappear. Lao Tzu is even harder to pin down, so hard that serious scholars debate whether he existed as a single person at all. The tradition gives us a portrait, though, and the portrait is the opposite of Confucius in every line. Where Confucius wanted desperately to be employed, Lao Tzu, by tradition a keeper of the Zhou royal archives, wanted to be left alone. Where Confucius wandered the country pitching his ideas, Lao Tzu watched the same country quietly from inside its record rooms, reading the long history of how every grand human plan eventually curdles. Where Confucius trained students and built a movement, Lao Tzu, the legend says, trained no one, founded nothing, and at the end of his life simply rode west out of the dying kingdom to vanish into the mountains, leaving behind a single short book only because a border guard refused to let him through the gate until he wrote down what he knew. We told that story, the disappearance, the gatekeeper, the reluctant book, in our video, The Real Reason Lao Tzu Left China. For now, hold on to the contrast because it is the whole video in miniature. Everyone around these two men believed the same thing, that the way to save a broken world was to do more, try harder, impose better order. One of them spent his life agreeing. The other was about to argue that this exact belief, the belief that effort and order are the cure, was the disease. Chapter 1. Confucius. Repair the world on purpose. Start with Confucius, because his answer is the one you already half believe. His diagnosis of the chaos was simple and, on its face, obviously correct. The world broke, he said, because people stopped honoring the forms that held them together. The son stopped honoring the father. The minister stopped honoring the ruler. The ruler stopped behaving like a ruler. The names stayed, Father, Son, Lord, Subject, but the meaning drained out of them. And once the meaning was gone, the murders started. His cure followed directly. If the forms are what hold a society up, then you save the society by deliberately, painstakingly rebuilding the forms, not by force, by cultivation. This is the heart of it, a word the Chinese call li. We translate it as ritual, but that is too small. Li is the entire choreography of respect. How you greet your elders, how you mourn your dead, how a ceremony is conducted, how a leader carries himself so that people trust him without being threatened. To Confucius, these were not empty manners. They were the visible body of an invisible thing, the daily practice that trains a human being into someone actually fit to live alongside others. And underneath Li sat the goal of the whole system: Ren, humaneness. The deep, cultivated capacity to feel what another person feels and act on it. You were not born with full Ren. You built it the way you build strength, through years of deliberate practice in the forms, until kindness stopped being an effort and became your nature. Here is the line where his entire worldview lives. Late in life, Confucius described his own development like this: At 15, I set my mind on learning. At 30, I took my stand. At 40, I had no more doubts. At 70, I could follow what my heart desired, without overstepping the line. Read what that is actually saying. Freedom, being able to follow your heart and have it always land right, is not where you start. It is where you arrive, at 70, after 55 years of relentless, deliberate self-construction. You are a block of raw stone, and the work of a life is to carve yourself into something worthy. Every day you add, every day you refine. This is not a dead philosophy in a museum. This is the operating system you are already running. Think about how you actually try to improve your life: the morning routine, the habit tracker, the discipline, the system, the conscious, effortful project of becoming a better version of yourself, one rep at a time. That instinct, that a good life is built through structure and sustained effort, is Confucius, alive in you 2,500 years later. He is the patron saint of every productivity app you've ever downloaded. And for a collapsing world, his answer was not naive. It was brave, humane, and it worked. His system would go on to hold the largest civilization on Earth together for 2,000 years. Which is exactly why the old man in the archive was so dangerous. Because he looked at all of it: the cultivation, the ritual, the heroic self-improvement, and said, that is the problem. Chapter 2, Lao Tzu. The cure is the disease. Lao Tzu's answer is harder to hold because it runs against the grain of everything that feels like trying. He did not disagree that the world was broken. He disagreed about why. To Lao Tzu, the chaos did not come from people abandoning structure. It came from people drowning in it, layer upon layer of rules, rituals, titles, ambitions, and clever schemes, all of them piled on top of a human nature that had been perfectly fine underneath. His master image for this is one of the most quietly devastating ideas in philosophy: Pu, the uncarved block. A piece of wood, before the carver touches it, holds every possible shape inside it. It is whole. The moment you carve it into one beautiful, specific thing, you have also destroyed every other thing it could have been. Confucius wanted to carve the human being into a masterpiece. Lao Tzu looked at the same human being and mourned what the carving would cost. And then he aimed straight at the center of Confucius's system. There is a line in the Tao Te Ching that is, when you understand who it was written against, almost shockingly direct. When the great Tao is forgotten, kindness and morality arise. When cleverness appears, great hypocrisy follows. Don't gloss over that. He is saying that the very virtues Confucius spent his life trying to teach, humaneness, righteousness, all of it, are not the sign of a healthy society. They are the symptom of a sick one. You only have to teach people to be kind once they have stopped being kind on their own. A family that genuinely loves each other does not need a rule book on filial piety. The moment you need the rule book, the love is already gone, and the rule book is a tombstone with good handwriting. So, what was his alternative? Not chaos, not laziness. This is the part everyone gets wrong, and we spent an entire video correcting it. the true story of Wu Wei, told by the man who refused to act. His alternative was Wu Wei, action without forcing, not doing nothing, doing without strain, the way water moves. Water never tries. It never schedules its descent or disciplines itself toward the sea. It simply yields to the shape of the land, takes the lowest path, and, given time, carves through stone that no hammer could break. To govern like Lao Tzu was to remove obstacles rather than issue commands. He said it about rulers in a line that should be printed on the wall of every government on earth. The more laws and edicts are posted, the more thieves and bandits there are. Every new rule, he was saying, creates a new way to break it, and a new class of people defined as criminals for doing what used to be ordinary. The harder you grip, the more slips through your fingers. Here's where this lands for you, right now. You have felt the failure of the Confucian engine in your own life. You have built the system, the perfect morning routine, the optimized schedule, the relentless self-improvement plan, and watched it collapse by Wednesday. And the collapse made you feel like a failure, so you built a stricter system, which collapsed faster. That spiral, the one where more control produces less control, is Lao Tzu's entire warning, playing out in your own calendar. More laws, more thieves, more rules for yourself, more ways to feel like you've failed. So, who's right? The man who says build, or the man who says stop building? Hold that, because the two of them were about to test it on each other, in person. Chapter 3, The Dragon in the Room. Now we can go back into the room. Confucius did not stumble into Lao Tzu by accident. According to the account preserved centuries later by the great historian Sima Qian, he sought the old archivist out on purpose, traveling to question him about Li, the rituals. This is important. Confucius was not going to debate a rival. He was going, with genuine humility, to learn from an acknowledged elder about the subject he cared most about in the world. And the old man refused to play the game. Lao Tzu's reply, as the tradition records it, was not a counter-lecture on ritual. It was personal, and it cut. He told Confucius, in effect, the men you so admire, the ancient sages whose rituals you want to revive, are dead. Their bones have turned to dust. Only their words remain, and you are clutching at the words of dead men as if they were the living thing. Then he turned it directly on the younger man's character. Set aside your pride and your endless ambitions, he said. Set aside that air of authority, that hunger to be the one who fixes everything. None of it is good for you. That is all I have to tell you. Picture the encounter. Confucius has built his whole identity on earnest striving, on caring more, working harder, refusing to give up on a world that keeps rejecting him. And the most penetrating mind he has ever met looks straight through all of it and says, the striving itself is the thing weighing you down. Confucius did not argue. He did not convert either. He went home and was silent. And then he said the thing his students never forgot, the thing that is the truest measure of how shaken he was. He compared the philosophies he understood to animals. A bird he knows can fly, a fish he knows can swim, a beast he knows can run. Things that fly, you can shoot down. Things that swim, you can hook. Things that run, you can snare. But the dragon rides the wind and the clouds and ascends into the sky, and he cannot understand how. Today, Confucius told them, I met Lao Tzu, and he is like a dragon. That is not the language of a man who won a debate. It is not the language of a man who lost one either. It is the language of a man who met something his entire system could not contain, and was honest enough to admit it instead of explaining it away. Here's what most people miss about this moment. The most certain man in China, the one whose whole philosophy was built on the conviction that the right answer is knowable, teachable, and worth dying for, stood in front of the unknowable and did not flinch and did not pretend. He named it a dragon and let it stay a dragon. You have a dragon in your life. Something, a person, a loss, a question about who you are that does not resolve no matter how much you analyze it. And you have probably spent enormous energy trying to turn it into a bird you can shoot down, because the unknowable is unbearable to the part of you that needs to fix things. Confucius shows you another move. You can stand in front of the thing you cannot master, call it what it is, and stop reaching for the bow. Chapter 4. Both of them lost. Here is the part of the story that should stop you cold. By the end of their lives, both men had failed. We've seen Confucius's failure already. He died convinced he had never built the just society he was made for. No ruler had ever truly handed him the kingdom. His students loved him. The powerful ignored him. But Lao Tzu failed too. Failed at his own teaching, in a way that is almost unbearably ironic. The man who taught that the deepest truth cannot be put into words, that the Tao that can be named is not the eternal Tao, only enters history at all because he was cornered at a border crossing and forced to break his own rule. He named the unnameable. He wrote the book he believed should not exist, and then he fled, as if to get away from the contradiction as fast as possible. Two men, two opposite philosophies, both, by their own measure, defeated. The teacher who couldn't get hired, the hermit who couldn't stay silent. And then, and this is the reversal that reframes everything, both of them won, not in their lifetimes, not by anything they did on purpose, on a scale neither could have imagined. Confucius, the failed minister, became the moral spine of the largest continuous civilization on earth. For roughly 2,000 years, to be educated in China meant to memorize his words. The imperial examinations that selected the entire governing class were built on the books that carried his teaching. Emperors who would have ignored the living man built temples to the dead one. And Lao Tzu, the man who wanted to vanish, became immortal precisely by vanishing. His single reluctant book, the Tao Te Ching, is now one of the most translated works in human history, after only the Bible. The hermit who trained no students has, at this point, hundreds of millions of them, including, for the length of this video, you. There is something almost cosmically Taoist about how this turned out. The man who forced and strove his whole life got his influence only after he stopped, after he was dead and could no longer push. The man who refused to grasp got his immortality the instant he let go at that mountain gate. Each of them got what he wanted only at the exact moment he could no longer want it. Sound familiar? Think about the times something finally came to you, the job, the relationship, the easy creative breakthrough, and notice how often it arrived right after you gave up the white-knuckled grip on it. Not because giving up is a clever new technique to get what you want. The moment you turn surrender into a technique, you're forcing again. But because there is a kind of wanting so tight that it strangles the very thing it reaches for. Both of these men, in opposite ways, are evidence of the same strange law. Chapter 5. Why the debate never ended. So China had to choose the brilliant ordered architect of the good society, or the quiet master who said the architecture was the problem? Build or stop blocking. Carve the block or leave it whole. And here is the genuinely surprising thing. The thing that makes this more than a tidy contest with a winner. China refused to choose. It took both, and it kept both in tension for 2,000 years because it discovered something neither man would have admitted, that you need them both, and you need them at different hours of your life. There is an old saying that captures how the Chinese actually lived this. A scholar was Confucian in the office and Taoist in retirement. By day, in public life, he wore the Confucian world: duty, structure, the careful performance of his role, the relentless cultivation of himself for the sake of the society he served. And then he went home, or grew old, or got pushed out of power, and he put on the Taoist world: the mountains, the wine, the poetry, the letting go, the return to the uncarved simplicity underneath the title. This is not hypocrisy. It is the oldest piece of practical wisdom China ever produced, and it is pure yin and yang, not two enemies, but two forces that only function as a pair. Confucius is the structure that lets a society stand up. Lao Tzu is the emptiness that keeps the structure from suffocating the people inside it. A civilization that is all Confucius becomes a rigid machine that grinds human beings into their functions. A civilization that is all Lao Tzu dissolves into a beautiful, ungoverned mist that cannot feed itself or defend its borders. You need the wall, and you need the window. You need the form, and you need the space the form encloses. The debate never ended because it was never supposed to end. It is not a problem to be solved. It is a tension to be lived, a current that keeps flowing precisely because neither bank ever wins. Which means the room from the beginning of this video was never really a contest. It was the first time the two halves of a complete human life looked each other in the eye. And both of them walked away unchanged, because neither one was ever meant to defeat the other. The real question was never which of these men was right. The real question is the one waiting on your desk right now. Which one does your life need more of? Today, this week, in the specific place where you are stuck. I know what you're thinking. This is a beautiful piece of intellectual history. Two giants, one room, a dragon, a civilization built on the tension between them. And you have a Monday. You have a deadline, a relationship that isn't quite working, and a quiet sense that you are either trying too hard at your life or not hard enough, and you can't tell which. Good, because that confusion is not a flaw in you. It is the exact debate from that room, running live, with no referee. Let me make it usable. 3 moves. 1. Diagnose which ancient is running you. Before you fix anything, find out which philosophy you are overdosing on, because both have a failure mode and they look nothing alike. The over-Confucian life is the one most likely to be watching this. You treat yourself as a permanent renovation project. Every problem gets met with a new system, a new rule, more discipline, more structure, more effort. And when the structure cracks, when you miss the workout, break the streak, fail the standard, you don't loosen the grip. You add another rule to prevent it next time. You are building a cathedral of self-improvement, and you are exhausted inside it. And somewhere underneath all the scaffolding is a person you haven't actually spoken to in years. The over-Taoist life has the opposite failure, and this audience knows it well enough to be suspicious of it, which is why I'm naming it instead of flattering you. It is the person who has learned to call their avoidance flow, who has read enough about Wu Wei and surrender and trusting the process to dress up plain old fear in spiritual robes. I'm just letting things unfold is sometimes the watercourse way, and sometimes it is a person standing perfectly still while the rent comes due, telling themselves the river will handle it. Letting go is a discipline. Avoidance wearing letting go's clothes is not. So, honestly, in the place where you are most stuck, which one are you? Forcing a river or refusing to build a bank? You cannot pick the right medicine until you've named the actual sickness. 2. Match the hour to the master. The scholar who was Confucian in the office and Taoist in retirement understood something your productivity culture refuses to. These are not personality types. They are tools, and the skill is knowing which one the moment in front of you is asking for. There are hours that belong to Confucius, the reps, the boring practice, the hard conversation you've been avoiding, the structure you have to build before you have any right to talk about transcending it. Lao Tzu is useless to a person who has not yet learned the form. Wu Wei is what mastery feels like from the inside, and there is no mastery without the years of deliberate work first. When the task in front of you is one you can improve by trying, try fully. Don't spiritualize your way out of the gym. And there are hours that belong to Lao Tzu, the creative work that dies the second you grip it too hard, the sleep that runs from you the more aggressively you pursue it, the relationship you are strangling by managing it, the grief that only moves when you stop trying to schedule its departure. For these, every ounce of Confucian effort makes it worse, because the forcing is the obstruction. Here, the move is to do your honest part and then take your hands off. Not because nothing matters, but because some things only arrive when you stop standing in their way. Here is the test, and you can run it on anything that's stuck today. Ask, is this a thing that responds to effort or a thing that recoils from it? Push the first kind, release the second. Most of your suffering comes from confusing the two, bringing a hammer to the dragon and bringing surrender to the woodpile. 3. Find the one block you refuse to leave. Uncarved, Lao Tzu's uncarved block is not an abstraction. It is a question about where in your life you are allowed to simply be without optimizing it. Somewhere you have taken a part of your life that used to be whole and free. A hobby, a friendship, a walk, a meal, and you have carved it into a project. The walk became a step count, the hobby became a side hustle, the meal became macros, the friendship became networking. Each carving felt like improvement, and each one quietly removed a place where you got to exist without a scoreboard. So this week, pick one. One block you will refuse to carve. One area you protect from improvement entirely. No tracking, no goal, no optimization, no turning it into content. Cook something and don't photograph it. Take a walk with no destination and no count. Do the thing for the obscene, ancient reason that it is good to be alive and doing it. That preserved space is not you being lazy. It is you keeping one room in the house where the renovation crew is not allowed. Go back to the room one last time. The young teacher who cannot stop trying. The old archivist who cannot be impressed. One afternoon, 25 centuries ago, in a dying kingdom. We tend to read it as a defeat. The great Confucius, humbled by the greater Lao Tzu, the dragon outshining the man. But look again, now that you've seen the whole arc. Confucius was not destroyed in that room. He was completed by it. He walked in certain he had the full picture, and he walked out having met the half of reality his system could never hold. And instead of denying it, instead of arguing it into a shape he could control, he gave it the most honest name a certain man can give the unknowable. He called it a dragon, and then he went on building anyway, which is its own kind of courage. That is the secret the debate has been guarding the whole time. It was never a contest with a winner. It was the first meeting of the two forces that every full human life has to hold at once: the drive to build yourself and the wisdom to stop carving, the wall and the window, the form and the emptiness it makes room for. The question Lao Tzu left hanging in that room was not which of us is right. He was far too Taoist for a question that small. The question he left, the one still waiting for you, is quieter and much harder. What makes you so sure your life is something that needs to be fixed at all? Sit with that one this week, not to answer it, just to notice how fast the builder in you wants to. And here's the single thing to try, starting today. The next time you hit a wall, before you reach for more effort, ask one question. Does this want my hammer or my open hands? Then act on the answer instead of your habit. That small pause, repeated, is the entire wisdom of 2,000 years, fitted into the width of a single breath. Next week, while Confucius and Lao Tzu argue forever about whether to add structure or remove it, we follow the third philosopher who was standing in the corner of Chinese history the whole time, saying both of them were dangerously naive, sharpening a very different kind of answer. He didn't care about virtue or nature. He cared about power and fear and control. His ideas would build the empire that unified China and burn the books of everyone who disagreed. His name was Han Feizi, and the philosophy he perfected is the one quietly running more of your world than either of tonight's giants. This is Daily Tao Wisdom. The rest is yours.